Is writing dialogue the bane of your writing life? No worries. I'm going to give you a list of tips so that you can write great dialogue and develop the skills you need to be successful in your writing journey. What's up? This is Brown Lady Publishing TV. I'm Gabby, and if you're new to my channel, this is where you come to learn tips and tricks to help you in your writing and publishing journey. This is the first part of a two-part lesson I'm going to be doing on writing dialogue, and there's also going to be a spin-off lesson on writing dialogue for fantasy novels. So if you don't want to miss those videos and more, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so that you can be notified whenever I upload new content. So I'm going to give you 6 key tips on writing great dialogue, and then at the end of the video we're going to look at a block of dialogue from a book that I love, and we're going to study what makes it so great. So tip number 1, keep it short. You do not want to have blocks upon blocks of dialogue where one character is having this giant long monologue and they're just waxing on about the sun and the sky and the moon. No one talks like that in real life. In actuality, dialogue, conversation is just a back and forth exchange between two people. Make sure that you have the people doing that back and forth, giving and getting in the conversation. If you have one character whose block of dialogue is like 8 to 10 sentences, it's too much. You need to cut it down. Number 2, keep it tight. You don't want unnecessary filler words or repeat words. For example, his eyes scanned the meadow. Well, yeah, of course his eyes scanned the meadow because you can't scan it with like your toes or anything like that. You don't need the eyes part. He scanned the meadow. Perfectly fine, tight, and to the point. Or, he only wanted to eat the ice cream. Only is a filler word. It's not necessary. If you take it out of the sentence, it doesn't detract from the sentence and your overall meaning, so it's not necessary. Cut it. He wanted ice cream. Point blank, to the point, keep it tight. Avoid those filler words, avoid those unnecessary words, avoid the repetition. Number 3, avoid adverbs. Adverbs are the ly words, the lead words. Adverbs are kind of like fool's gold to me. They're kind of easy to use and they make you think that you did an amazing job describing the emotion of the scene, but in actuality, you haven't really given the reader any insight into the character or, again, the story through the character's eyes. And what I mean by that is when you're having dialogue is a great chance for you to show who the character is. And it's a great chance for you to explore the world that you've created in your story through the character's eyes. So if you use an adverb, so for example, don't do that, he said aggressively. Well, what exactly does that mean? How is the character really feeling? How is he reacting to this moment? Let me see it. Let me see him punching something or pointing his finger or something. Show me more of like who this character is. Number 4, try to use action between the conversation pieces. And this is a great lead off from the not using the lead words, because instead of using those, try to really show what the character is doing. So going back to the don't do that example, don't do that. He slammed his fist into the aluminum table, denting the smooth, cool surface. His nostrils flared with each ragged inhale and exhale he breathed. See how that's just so much more powerful than don't do that, he said aggressively? Like, we actually get to see the character slamming his fist in the table. And not only is he so mad that he slammed his fist, he's dented the table with it. And then his nostrils are flaring. Like, this gives us so much more depth and so much more insight into who this character is. So whatever happened before that, it literally made him explode. So we just get to see that so much more. And so using those action tags in between the conversation pieces really help to paint the character and the scene that they're in. Number 5, wherever possible, try to remove the dialogue tags. He said, she said, he growled, she growled, and all that other good stuff. And I know what you may be thinking, but what? Like, that's how dialogue is supposed to go. Well, honestly, if you're doing your dialogue correctly, it's really not all that necessary. If you have 2 people in a conversation, the dialogue either belongs to one person or the other. And if it's a back and forth dialogue, the reader will pretty much be able to pick up on who's saying what, as long as you establish that from the beginning. Eat, poop, and die, John said. You first, Sue replied. You're so petty, John growled. See how unnecessary that is? It's only Sue and John, so when it's back and forth, you know, John started the conversation, So then it's going to be Sue, then it's going to be John, then it's going to be Sue, back and forth and back and forth. So again, have faith in your readers and their intelligence. Of course, in the case where there's more than two people in the conversation, you may need to use dialogue tags to help keep track of the conversation so that the reader doesn't get confused. But if you must use dialogue tags, try to keep to the basic said and not that other stuff, growled, replied, and all that good stuff. The reader knows that he's replying or whatever. And instead of using those, again, basic kind of words like growled, try to be more descriptive. Show it. Show him slamming his fist into the table. Show his nostrils flaring. Really do your best to try to create as much description in that scene so that we know what's going on, the emotion in the scene, how the character's responding, and how the character's reacting to everything that's going on around them. And number 6, get to know your character. Out of all the advice, I honestly think this is the most important. If you don't know your character, honestly, your dialogue is probably gonna fall pretty flat. You won't know your character well enough to know if they slam their fist or if they run away from the conversation. You won't be able to sprinkle in those little nuances of your character that really help the reader to know who they are. So for example, if your character is like a chatty Cathy for like 90% of the book, and then we get to this pivotal moment where, they're keeping a secret or something like that. And so their husband asks them, "Oh, how's your day?" And for like the first half of the book, they're always, "Oh, my day was great. It was amazing. It was so wonderful, blah, blah, blah." And then all of a sudden they're like, "Nothing." Like even that short little bit of changing how they talk or how they interact in that moment can be amazing to show, oh my goodness, something's happening. The reader can be like, whoa, why is she suddenly having nothing to say? Like she was so chatty the whole book and now she's got nothing. This must be a really big, juicy secret, whatever it is. Or also, you need to know how the character speaks. If they're Southern and they have a bit of a twang, if they're from the big city, New Jersey, all these things play into who they are, how they speak, and you want to add those and sprinkle those little characteristics into your dialogue to really give it pizzazz and punch so that it's really unique to your character. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're really trying to do. We're crafting worlds. We want to have the reader suspend their belief for a moment and have them think that they're not in their living room or their library or whatever, but they're in your world. And in order to create those little pockets of time in which they just lose themselves in your book, you really have to create these amazing characters and these dialogues that just are unique and pop off the page. And knowing your character is how you do that and how you make that translate in your dialogue. So like I said at the beginning of the video, I want to look at a piece of dialogue from a published book because a lot of these tips are great and everything like that, but let's see how they play out. So my example is from The Captive by Grace Burrows. This is a historical romance novel. I love me some historicals and I love me some romance novels, so that's why I chose it. But also it's just really well written and I think it's a great example of everything that I've been talking about so far. So let's read. He took a sip of his nursery tea, finding it hot, sweet, soothing, and somehow unsatisfying. Perhaps you'd be good enough to state the reason for your call, Lady Greendale. We're not to chat over tea even? One forgets you've spent the last few years among soldiers, Your Grace. But then, the officers on leave are usually such gallant fellows. She focused on the orange, which was half naked on the plate in her lap. This is just perfectly ripe, and the scent is divine. The scent was good. Not a scent of any negative associations, not overpowering, not French. You're welcome to share it with me, he said, sipping his little boy tea and envying her the speed with which she denuded the orange of its peel. So this is a great piece of dialogue, and let's really dive into why. One of the things that I love about Grace is her characters are always so unique, and she does such a great job painting them. So for example, it starts off with the hero pretty much saying, perhaps you'd be good enough to state the reason for your call. So he's like calling her out. He's like, hey, what you doing here? And so it's great because from that little piece, we're like, okay, so obviously he might be either a little snippy or just in general kind of like, what do you need? He's straight and to the point. But then she responds with, we're not even gonna chat, and then she's looking at the orange, and then she completely goes and talking about the orange being ripe and stuff like that. So he's pretty much saying, hey, get to the point, and she's beating around the bush. She won't get to the point. So what can we surmise just from this little piece? We can surmise that she's probably nervous, she's obviously a chatty Cathy, and whatever it is that is her point, the reason she came to the she came to meet with him, she's unwilling for whatever reason to get to it and to tell him about it. And then also, we can look here, and at the very end, she has the word he said, sipping his little boy tea, but in between, it's pretty much action or other pieces instead of the he said, she said. Because again, once we've established that, you know, it's two people, the hero started the conversation, the heroine finished, we don't need the back and forth of the he said, she said. We already know who's talking, and it just does so much more and adds so much more vibrance to the dialogue when she uses more of the actions that each of the characters are doing. And I want to look at this line that she put in here. The scent was good, not a scent with any negative associations, not overpowering, not French. Even if we didn't know this dude, we know that he does not like the French for some reason. Again, this is just such a small clippet of dialogue, but from this we get such a great insight into who these characters are. And that is a sign of great dialogue. And that's what I want you guys to do in your dialogue. Alright, well that's all I got for this video. I hope you learned something. In the comment section, make sure to tell me what's the hardest part about writing dialogue for you. Who knows, maybe you might have a whole video dedicated to that one topic just for you. Also, tell me one thing that you learned from this video and how you plan to incorporate it in your writing. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so that you'll be notified whenever I upload new content. This video is a part of a series I'm doing on writing crafts, so don't forget to watch the other videos, and if you like them, make sure to share them. And you can contact me on social media. I'm on Instagram and Twitter, and I love hearing from you guys, again, in the comments or on any of those social media platforms. So have a good one, and I'll see you in the next video.